anticipated crowdfunding board games coming to you, arriving in 2024. Now, this is going to be interesting because I'm going to actually split this into two videos. This one, we're going to be talking 25 to 11, and then we're going to be doing the top 10 in a separate video before the end of the month as well. But let's be very clear at the beginning of this video. This is arriving in 2024. So there are going to be some notable big names not on either list, folks. You just have to be aware. What are those ones? Well, let's just put this out at the beginning. What games are not going to be covered on this list? Games that are unreasonably or reasonably not going to be delivered in 2024. Big names, several big names. So if you're looking for the recently finished Nemesis Retaliation, well, you can talk to me when I film this video at the end of 2025. Haha. Kidding, not kidding. But similarly, Awaken Realms is basically every project from this past year. Dragon Eclipse, you're not going to get it next year. I hate to break that one to you if in case that wasn't aware. Stalker, you're also not going to have that one. Now, Dragon Eclipse being your Pokemon catch-em-all style, and Stalker being your latest dungeon crawling within post-apocalyptic theme. So, cross those off your list if you're looking for those right now. Is ironic because we'll be talking about one from 2020 in this video later. Then other things, other big name projects that aren't going to be seen here. Monster Hunter Iceborne from Steamforge. They're not anywhere close to production. You're not going to get anywhere close to 2024. And then also, Cyclades, the Legendary Edition, was also a big name that will not be on this list. So, that being said, what is on this list? And Chris, why are you splitting this into two videos? It's because there are that many projects that are worth talking about. You ready? Let's go. So the criteria for this, though, is how excited am I by it? How easy is it going to be to the table? And how good do I think it's actually going to be? All of those factored in to make my completely and utterly objective, subjective ratings that are better than everyone else's. Let's go. Number 25, we're going to start off. I covered this, and a lot of these I covered on the channel already in some way, shape, or form. Fractured Sky from Ivy Studios. Fractured Sky, taking sort of a blind auction bidding style mechanism with a unique magnetic component, which is kind of unnecessary, but it makes it more lifestyle friendly in terms of just ease of accessibility. It's probably their most different game out there. It's easily more accessible, though. This was a close one with Moon Rollers as well, because I think Moon Rollers is actually going to be a surprise roll and write hit. But Fractured Sky, just from it's doing something different. It's going to be a nice higher player count from 3 to 5 that I don't have a ton of stuff in that is otherwise going to be easily accessible. I liked it more than Veiled Fate, so take that for what you will. It's not the highest Ivy Studios games on this list, though, so just be aware. There's at least one more coming up higher. So 24 is also one that I could see myself trading for, but I was kind of on the fence on the edge because it's a game originally that my wife hates, and that's Santorini, the new edition of Santorini from Roxley. They're putting it out. You're getting cooperative style Santorini and just a redone edition along with it, sort of encompassing the Golden Fleece expansion, smoothing things out, ironing out those wrinkles, and just trying to make it better overall. But like I said, my wife hates that game. I am a huge abstract lover. You know me on this channel. I love the abstract style. And so the Santorini simplicity of building your tower and standing on top and just winning. And then the cleverness of some slight asymmetry and abilities from that side of things. Yes. I can't get the old copy I have played. I can't even trade it and get rid of it. Like, right? And so I don't know how I feel about the cooperative version of it because it feels like a min-max puzzle. And I've said this several times before on this channel as well, in other places, other times, and other locations. Min-max puzzles are not my favorite thing whatsoever. I don't like to feel like there's one solution, and if you just can't find this one magic solution, that you just can't do it. And I'm not sure that that's exactly what this is, but it gives me those vibes. And so from that aspect of things, I had to pass. I don't want to pay for a shinier edition of a game I can't already get played. So could I trade for it? Kind of like I traded for Tales to Amaze, the cooperative unmatched? Absolutely. But Buying it? We'll see. And that's why it's only at 24 on this list. 23, we're talking Clank. We're going clanking. We're going clanking. We're going Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated 2. And there was zero incentive to get this on crowdfunding, folks. Zero incentive. I'm sorry. There wasn't any, Direwolf. But it's still going to be highly anticipated. Are you kidding me? People have this, many people have this as their best legacy the first time around version. And that's not going against some low ball, lightweight hitters, right? Versus your Pandemics, versus your Betrayals. So to say that people really love that above all the other legacy games that are out there, that's not insignificant. And with this, I trust Direwolf to put out a freaking good product. So that's not the question. But it's a legacy game. It's Clank. And how do you feel about Clank? Clank is okay. I have Catacombs. Not sure whether or not it's going to be on the top 10 list of the games this year, but it's definitely going to be in the top 20. Legacy games are incredibly hard because of that. It's because of that factor, that feature of needing a significant group component dynamic consistency that I don't really own any legacy games. I want to own legacy games, but it's not feasible. Legacy games are not great at 2. Like my wife and I playing through a legacy game, that's not going to be the full experience. And if I'm going to do it, I want the full experience. Don't you? And so that's why, yes, again, high on the trade list. High on the acquire anytime soon trade list? No, not really. I think it's going to be a great, great, great game. But because, like I said, of those other factors, that's why it's only at this point on the list, and nonetheless. So then this is going to be the surprise if you haven't watched my channel a ton, but if you have, again, you'll know Dodo Dash, the sequel to Dinos Riding Dodos, right? That's going to sound like which one of these is not like the other, but seriously, folks, if you haven't played the original, this is one of the most fun experiences you can have, especially with a family weight style game. It's Mario Kart Incorporated. It's the closest thing. Well, we'll see what Brotherwise Games can do with Dungeon Kart, but this is by far and away the closest thing to Mario Kart that's on the tabletop scene. And it's a fantastic, fantastic game. They're improving it. They're giving us more content, more boards, more random chaos. Is it Take That? A ton. Is it Pile on the Leader? Absolutely. Is it just, fun that I can play with my gaming group as well as my wife, right? Winner right there, and the kids. So that's why it's on this list, folks. Detestable Games has a freaking amazing, easily their best game. Easily. Head and shoulders. It's a game that's never going anywhere in my collection. Even when my kids grow older. Like, I'm that happy with it. And so if you haven't experienced it, if you're looking for an easier price point entry, because this one is less, because it's a standalone expansion, but it's got a little less content overall, but it's like mix and matchable with a little bit of just better version, essentially, if you will. It's a great place to get in from that aspect as well. So then we're going to 21. 21 is finally arriving this year. Mythic frickin' Battles Ragnarok. It's not any higher in this list. One, because it's been like 2 or 3 years since this thing funded. And I look at this and I go, I love, right? 2-player skirmish games. I love them. Fantastic games. There's going to be a couple others higher on this list. But the sheer money I spent on it, way too much. The sheer plastic and size that's involved, way too much. The accessibility comparatively to other 2-player duels of other ilk, variety, similarity, difference is just too much. And so I haven't even played through all of the Mythic Battles Pantheon. So now I'm getting Ragnarok and I'm going, WTF, should I even keep this? Should I just flip it? And I mean that as maybe get a profit, maybe just break even. Because storage is becoming a real issue, folks. My wife is not happy with me lately. And I'm completely potentially okay with this. And that, if you would have told previous 2 years ago me that, I would be looking at you like you were taking crazy pills here. Like you're from Zoolander. So is this going to be a great game? I don't know. There is so little content on this game in the first place. Even original Pantheon, right? It's something that has somehow escaped the vast majority of online creators as a whole. And I'm not sure why that is. Someday I will put content out for it. This might cause me to do that, but I just don't know. It's just such a massive, sprawling enterprise that requires repeated play and use from a meta style of this with plastic chunks that makes it hard to get to the table. I can see why that's happened. I hope it doesn't, but maybe it'll get some more support this time around, because they've been teasing for years now too that Mythic Battles Egypt is the next one. So is that even going to be feasible? Is that on the plate at all? They've got Conan upcoming from Monolith, but there's not been any really confirmation otherwise what their plans are after that. So we'll see when it arrives. And maybe they're waiting for it to arrive to strike while the iron is hot, and maybe you'll see a quarter 2 crowdfunding campaign for that. But then there we go to 20. Old King's Crown. Talked about it this year, did the review. Awesome freaking game. Again, 3 to 4 players, messy chaos, take that, hidden information, bluffing, bidding, just unique mechanics smashed together with an awesome, fantastic, I said autastic there in the cut, art theme and presentation. It's not going to be for everybody. There's going to be way too much direct interaction. Take that. You're too asymmetric from mine. The blidding, the bluffing, the flipping of hidden information. You're not going to like it. It's not going to be for everybody. But you know what, folks? It's a fantastic freaking game. This is going to be, I think, on a lot of people's lists for the end of 2024 top 10 right there. There's a couple others on this list that I'm going to, proclaim right now as well, that they're going to fall under a similar category in addition to that. So check out my review if you want. Tons more information there, but that's why it's number 20. Number 19, again, Roxley. We're going back to Roxley, but this one, again, is way overdue. Skyrise, right? This is a remake. This is another auction bidding style game, very similar to Nocturne, recently crowdfunded from Flat Out Games, in the sense that this is a remake from Metropolis, where you have a chaining bidding system in neighboring spaces in order to get the building that you're trying to achieve. They took some of the criticisms, the weaknesses, the 2-player count of Metropolis along those lines and the other shortcomings, and they basically said, we're going to remake it, we're going to redo it, we're going to deluxify the hell out of it because we're Roxley and we put an awesome product from that standpoint. And here you go, hundreds of thousands of dollars later, 2 years later, this is one of the only pledges I have ever late pledged for that I did not have initial interest in the campaign whatsoever. That tells you how much I think of this. And this is going to be a more easily accessible game than many of these others on this list. The combination of those two with Roxley's production, again, I think is going to put this on the short list for top games of the year if it holds true to what they were presenting. Because that's the other aspect of things. With some of these games on this list, they're either going to be way overranked or way underranked because we just don't know. Games like this and a few others, they're going to be, relatively solid things because they're known products. And that's where this one kind of has the edge over some other ones right here. So unique buildings, unique player counts, it just works from all aspects. And that's why it's on the list from that side of things right now. So next up, again, this is going to be a divisive one. I was just reading through some Board Game Geek comments for this and some reflections on it since it crowdfunded and since it is now in the state that it's in. And this is the latest from Leader. Arcs. The sprawling-esque oath in a nutshell condensed version over 3 sessions, campaign style, but also free for all if you want. And very interesting comment section like I was just referring to. You've got people that are absolutely in love with it, and you've got people that are saying, and again, I'm not one of those people because I can't do Tabletop Simulator, saying that this game that is the most recent iteration, that is in, the throes of maybe production right now, is not the game that was crowdfunded. And that's sort of the issue I have with some crowdfunding games right now, especially those ones at the beginning that I mentioned from Awakened Realms, is that, there is a lot of rules, testing, play, gameplay change between crowdfunding and production and receiving. And I understand it. At the same time, as a consumer, it pisses me off, right? Because I don't expect it to be drastic, but if it's drastic, holy F-balls, Batman. That's very concerning. Because, with some of the gameplay, because some of these things apparently were significantly overhauled. I don't know for certain. Don't quote me about that in the comment section. Just from people who have play tested all the way through. That, yeah, you might like some of the significant changes if they're there. But if they're that significant, you could also be on the receiving end of not liking them as well. And then this was between $100 and $150 pledge that, yeah, leader probably going to save you a little money on the crowdfunding project, but are you actually going to be happy? Because I don't want to flip things. I'm trying to sell 150 games right now on an Excel spreadsheet. I've sold like 6 and I've got them priced at like half the retail price, folks. Selling games is a hard pain in the butt. So I don't know where this one's going to go. No clue. 17. Defenders of the Frickin' Wild. Outlandish Games. They sent me the copy during the crowdfunding campaign to talk about. I was really impressed by it. It's probably the closest thing to Spirit Island that I have played, cooperatively speaking, mechanistically speaking. But it's more accessible. It's a little bit lighter. It's not quite as thinky. It wasn't quite as asymmetric. They're addressing those things. They're giving us more factions. They're upgrading it in terms of those concerns. I was in contact with them over the holiday. It's going to be good. Again, is it going to be good for you, though, as well? If you don't want some randomness that Spirit Island doesn't have, this might not be for you. If you want something a little heavier-ish, it's not going to be for you. But if you want that tension, that gameplay, I'm being slowly suffocated, crushed, and I'm having to battle my way back through clever mechanism, card play, and dynamic from my fellow allies, this is by far and away on the table from a mechanistic standpoint, the closest thing I've seen. And so if that intrigues you, well, it should, because I like some hard co-ops as well. So I stand by my assessment of that was easily one of the best co-ops I played all year long. Now, 16 here. Should have this in a month or two at most. This is 3 years post-funding. It funded in December of 2020, right? People have had the first wave now for quite some time. I don't know, like a year or so. And now we are finally, if you're like me and you did single wave shipping, or you're getting your second wave, we're getting it hopefully, beginning middle of January-ish. And to be clear, as I'm staring at the computer in front of the camera here, this was supposed to be April 2022. So nearly 2 freaking years overdue. And that right there, folks, is why none of those games I mentioned from Awakened Realms are going to be delivered this year. Why none of them are on this list. Because this one is almost 2 years overdue. Those other ones? Now, not all of those are going to be split shipping and, 2 waves, but I mean, Awakened Realms has way too much on their plate. They have way too many spinning plates. I'm not going to say any of them are going to drop. I don't think that's going to happen. But if you don't think that some of these are trickling down and pushing other ones back in terms of amount of focus and amount of, resources that can be done, well, I mean, I hate to break it to you. They probably are, even inadvertently, because these are huge projects as a whole. Huge. Tens of thousands of copies of backers. So the other thing I will say is I have heard next to nothing about this game since it came out. I don't recall this being on anyone's lists for anything. Could be wrong. I probably am wrong. It's probably a vastly, grossly inappropriate overstatement there. But I just don't see it popping up anywhere as people going, wow, this is really... And you know what that reminds me of, though? That hype that went along with this. Probably one of the biggest hypes I've seen. Very similar, eerily similar to the more recent Nemesis Retaliation. Right? Not going to say Nemesis Retaliation isn't going to be good, but that's what I fear with this. But Nemesis Retaliation has the whole Nemesis branding behind it and the Alien-esque and just the pedigree. So I don't think people are going to trash it regardless of how good or not it is. I think there's going to be significantly more bias in a game like that in terms of wanting to like it than some of these other ones where there isn't such an attachment with ISS Vanguard, if you will. So I will have a review out this year and we will see where this one goes. I hope it is fantastic. I really, really do, folks. I just don't know. Spacefaring sort of narrative upgrade being, keep track of your own cards and notebook sort of situation. I don't know. I'm scared. I think this is going to be a lot of upkeep minutia, and way too much campaign for me, and it's just gonna bog down, and that's my fear. But you can tell me again how wrong I am in the comment section, and how much you've been loving it, and how much that would encourage me and uplift my spirits right now as I'm filming this. 15. Speaking of known products, though, Through the Desert from Allplay. I went for it. Through the Desert. It's a Knizia classic, folks. I don't have it. I own pretty much everything else. You know, I've got my Yellow and Yangtze. I've got my Tigris and Euphrates. I've got my Blue Lagoon. I've got my Babylonia. I've got Samurai. I'm gonna have Cascadero. Spoilers, that's coming up later on the list. But that's Through the Desert. Camel backing, camel manipulating, path building, cutting off, heavy take that I love. Man, I was a sucker for the Bazaars expansion. I can't not get it. Now, am I going to get the wooden camels? I really want the wooden camels, but I don't want to pay practically the whole cost of the game on top just for wooden instead of plastic. I think that's a whatever. My Dutch heritage will not allow me, frugality wise speaking, to pay like $30 for wooden camel meeples for a $40 game. I just can't do it. As ugly as some of those plastic ones are, and as beautiful as those wooden meeple ones are, just can't do it, folks. But it's a known quantity. It's a very well-known game in the first place. You don't question what the gameplay is going to be, and that's why it's this high on the list. Frankly speaking, you can make the argument that maybe looking back on this list a year from now, it's going to be even higher. So there you go. 14. Another game I absolutely loved that I think is going to be on a lot of people's top 10 lists by the time it comes around. Endeavor Deep Sea. This was just an absolutely fantastic, charming tableau building game, exploring, diving down, putting these tiles down as you go down, resource management wise, upgrading your workers, upgrading your characters, your ship crewmates as they go along, flipping them over as well to their upgraded side. It just freaking works. It is by far and away one of the smoothest, easiest feeling, easiest dynamically playing games that I have had all year long. Easily. And so, you know, if it was a final product in my collection right now, it would have easily made my top 10 of 2023. I'll put it that way. So from that aspect of things, I have no qualms about saying yes, more yes, better than the first Endeavor, like the theme better as well, incorporated very, very uniquely, and just fantastic overall. You want to get a copy of this on your hands as soon as possible. So, you know, if the late pledge is open, consider it. I don't even know if it is. Maybe I'm just shilling too much in this video. I don't know, whatever. So, next up, 13. 13 here is a complete and utter crapshoot. This one could easily be off the list a year from now. This one could easily be in the top 5. It's that dynamically different. I've got the base sitting up there behind me on top of the shelf. I don't know if you can see it. Madara. I'm a JRPG junkie, folks. What am I doing over my whole holiday break here? Well, I've got a great copy, barely scratched, of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I just picked up for a very, very ultra low cost over the holiday sales Black Friday of Persona 5 Royale for Switch. So, JRPG junkie, folks, right? This is the ultimate JRPG game. People are like, it's teenage fiction drama writing. Yeah, you don't go into the writing. Is it too much upkeep? Yes. Is it requiring 4 players that pisses me off in these dungeon crawl games? Yes. Does it have a great, unique upgrade, battling, asymmetric powers, system in that sense? Absolutely. So how are books 2 and 3, second and third parts of the trilogy, actually going to stand up? I actually really like the artwork. A lot of people aren't going to like the artwork either. But again, JRPG, right? So I could see it going either way. Spent way too much money on it. It was cheaper actually to get the all-in than it was to separate stuff out and get all of the extra stuff, including the resins. And so I just decided to do that. And again, this is one on the list that, I'm going to feel really crappy if this one falls flat. Really, really bad. But it's unique. It stands apart from a lot of the other dungeon crawls narratives. And so I really want to see what they can throw out there. So there you go. And 2 more here before we reach the top 10. Then we go over to number 12. Arcane Wonders, one of their few more recent crowdfunding games based on the Sentinels of the Multiverse comic originally. This is Freedom 5, the Sentinels comic board game. A cooperative, more card-driven, as well as pandemic style Sentinels of the Multiverse. And this one has just been pending forever. They have been taking their dear sweet time with this, delay after delay after delay, miniatures with this that are completely unnecessary, painted ones on top of that, and we're going to see it at some point this year. Hopefully in the next first 2 quarters. If not the second quarter, I'm going to be pissed even further. But this is another one that's way overdue. So again, as a hard co-op fan, the potential on this one is high. But I just fear, because it's been so long that the hype and the hotness is worn off, that other games more recently have surpassed it just from sheer, I don't want to say standing on other people's shoulders, but we're seeing a lot of that lately in terms of development. This is a better iteration of this game because they took this concept, they improved it, they did it their own, and they just also got it out sooner. We saw it with something like even Darwin's Journey. It was getting lapped by a couple of the other games Euro-wise from this past year, back in 2022, that came out in the time that it crowdfunded, and then it delivered. You had ones that crowdfunded and delivered sooner and just were more well thought of. And by the time that one came around, it just kind of... So that's my fear with this. Thankfully, I didn't get the miniatures that were painted. Good gracious. Speaking of cost. So we'll see where it goes. Is it going to stand up? Is it actually going to be something like this year's Daybreak was for me as well from a cooperative standpoint? I love the idea of it. This is the game I originally thought I wanted when I got into Sentinels of the Multiverse, both the first time, right at the very beginning of my board gaming aspects years ago, but also more recently when I played the 3.0 version of Sentinels of the Multiverse, and I said, yep, still not a big fan of this overall. So, last up on this video, number frickin' 11. One of the most recent ones I actually covered on this channel. 2-player, dueling, head-to-head, card-driven. Can you guess it? Well, you don't need to, because it's Singularity. Singularity! Over on Gamefound. The head-to-head dueling. You got 5 characters, they each have 3 powers, you cycle through them, you knock out 3 of your opponent's 5 characters, you shuffle your characters in and out, tagging in, tagging out, essentially, if you will, and just an awesomely dynamic head-to-head dueling game. This one, if they can achieve full potential of this, this is going to rival almost everything else in my collection from that aspect. The potential for this one, if they hit it out of the park, is super high. We're talking like my levels of Exceed and Summoner Wars 2 levels of excitement. And that's saying something. Those 2 games are like top 25 easily for me all time. And that's how high this one could be as well from that aspect. And that's why it's 11. Just barely being edged out by many other very, very ones that I may have alluded to or may have already sort of hinted at as well. So there you go. 25 to 11. Tons of games. I wasn't kidding about this. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your guesses are for 10 through 1, because obviously there's going to be some notables that you know me talk about and you know that I love that are going to be on that. And where do you think they're going to rank and where are they going to be? And what else didn't make the list? What else should have made the list? I've got a couple on here that were narrow cuts. Unconscious Mind, for example. I think people are going to like that. A couple like that I just, ran out of space, ran out of time. I mentioned Moon Rollers as well from Ivy Studios. I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic. So there is a lot of stuff that is also going to surprise and probably overachieve that isn't even on this list that's going to arrive as well in 2024. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts, concerns, questions, comments, everything else down below, and stay tuned for the next video. I will throw the video link for the top 10 in the description down below after it goes live. So if you're tuning in late to this one, well, you just get to binge it all at once. That's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. See you around. Also, check out my top 10 most anticipated of 2024 that are launching. I'll also have that down in the description below as well if you want. So there you go. It's actually like 16. I just couldn't stop myself at 10. So just like with this video. There you go. Subscribe. We are over 9,000! I'm going to start throwing in the Dragon Ball reference there in a lot of these places, at least until I hit 10K. So if you want to stop that reference from being thrown into videos, subscribe sooner. Get me to 10K sooner. Peace out.